Hey everybody, hope you're doing well, and I just wanted to record this video, I suppose, because when we get towards the end of a year, people start to put their kind of year in review videos together, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to just share my thoughts on how I felt my year has gone, but more specifically my thoughts towards my ultras and what I've learned from them, how I feel they went in general, and what advice I would give. And this is purely from an amateur running perspective, because as you'll know, I'm not particularly fast marathon runner, over 4 hours. I'm not particularly well established in terms of kind of trail running and mountain running, none of that stuff. So it really is just from the point of view of somebody who has just given it a good go this year, and hopefully you'll get some value from some of the things that I've taken from my experience. And of course, I really do appreciate all the community coming together to support me on my endeavours this year. It's really meant a lot. So whilst this is a kind of review of the year, this is more specifically focused on the trails and trail running in general, and the ultra experiences I've had. So let's dive straight into it. Why did I sign up for the first ultra that I did? Well, I came to the end of my second marathon and I wasn't that happy with the performance, and I felt like I put a lot of pressure on myself to deliver a sub 4 performance, and it didn't happen. And there are many factors to why it didn't happen, and the weather really was a massive issue. My training was the best training I'd done, but I came off the back of it and I just thought, I just can't really throw myself back into a marathon just yet. It doesn't feel like it's something that I want to do immediately. But I considered the idea of maybe I would be better going longer, so I might actually feel more comfortable with a more, I say relaxed, but an approach to the run, which would mean I'm not focusing solely on time but more on the distance. So with that, I signed up a few weeks after my second marathon. It was back in August last year for the ultra. The ultra was supposed to be in April. As you know, the pandemic hit, and therefore it got, thankfully for me, it didn't get cancelled, it just got postponed. Through that training cycle, I basically did it twice, and I think that's what possibly messed things up slightly for me, because I'd already gone through the training cycle once in prep for April, and then with a few weeks to go it was postponed, so then I had to repeat the cycle again after some time off. And the whole thing, I think when I got to on race day, I felt mentally prepared, but I think physically I was probably just completely exhausted from the continuous running I've been doing. I didn't really give myself a proper break. So, kind of excuses aside, I suppose, things that I did have in place, and I made a little list of them, so just excuse me for a moment while if I look down, so I make sure I don't forget anything. First and foremost, for anybody watching this right now thinking, I don't think I could do an ultra, you absolutely can. It's the belief you need to have in yourself that you can achieve anything that you want to achieve. It's that gets you over the line. Physically, yeah, you need to be, I suppose, of a certain level to be able to do the distance, but it's the mindset that keeps you going. Because a lot of people could start it physically and not end it if the mental side of things lets you down. Whereas I felt like I had the mindset that I was going to cross that finish line no matter what. And the same with my ultra of the day, I saw that same thing reflected in Ben. He had the mindset that he was going to complete the distance. Physically, he was broken. And, you know, from somebody running with him, he was in a really difficult space. And while some of it is shown in his video, he was battling through something which a lot of people would have given up on, because it was easy to say, I'm done, easy to call time out. It's the mindset that you need to work on, and that's something that you do kind of, if you like, outside of the running. It's something you just do within, it's something you do personally. It's that drive that keeps you going, and some people have that and some people don't have that. So for me, first and foremost, you need to get your mindset correct, get yourself in a position where the moment you step onto that start line, you only focus on finishing. And everything in between is a journey, and it's something that is difficult, and you'll have highs and lows, but you are always thinking about one foot over the line, one foot over the line. And that's something that I feel I was very strong in. And yeah, I'll talk about the difference between the ultras shortly, but Gear, tried and tested. You've got to make sure that you put the time in to testing out your gear. I really don't like running with a vest, and actually I really hated, and the word is hate, I hated training with a vest because it just felt uncomfortable. I felt too hot, it felt a little bit, I don't know, it just felt a bit restricting. And I found the perfect vest for me. The Camelback vest is awesome. I didn't get on with Salomon, I didn't get on with some of the other brands, but for me the Camelback was absolutely flawless. I really can't fault it, apart from the leaky bottle, which happens in lots of vests, which I got replaced by them. But for me, I didn't like running in the vest, but I learnt to love it. And same with the gear as well. I chose my gear, and most of the videos, I'm sure you got bored of seeing me wearing the same stuff. It's because I just got comfortable in it. I knew what worked, and I didn't want to stray from that, and I was really pleased that I did. I never suffered any chafing, I never suffered any blisters, I never suffered any sort of rubbing or discomfort that I think would have come from me trying something different on race day. Linked to that, nutrition, hydration. Now when you're doing the ultra, it is different. It's different because you can't necessarily get away with just gels. My ultra I did recently with Ben, the one the other day, I got away with just gels. I think I had a flapjack bar, OT bar at halfway. I did that kind of on purpose without necessarily needing to have it. And I think you might have seen me mention in my video that I got a little bit of a stitch come off the back of that. And I think that had to do with just not really prepping fully for the solid foods. That's something you need to invest quite a lot of time into. Gels I was very comfortable with. Tailwind I used, Spring Energy I used, and then I just used some Trek bars, some Lara bars, and some Cliff bars as well. So they're things that I dipped into, but again, I practice with them. Even on the shorter runs, I go out for a 10k and stop at 5k and just eat some solid food and then keep running, just to try and get the body used to moving and eating, because it is a bit of a skill, it's something to learn. And I think even for me in my first ultra, that kind of failed for me. I started eating whilst I was walking uphill, I remember it vividly, and the moment I got to the top I just thought that was a terrible move. I was breathing heavy, I was trying to eat at the same time, not a good combination. Of course, recovery is absolutely paramount. If you have not got a good recovery system in place, you're going to find yourself suffering more so days after the event. And I think it does put a bit of a dampener on the event itself if you realise that for a week or 2 weeks after you can't walk. Nobody really wants that. And for me, I've got myself into quite a good routine where I do the stretching, I have the ice baths, I'll then also have like an Epsom salt bath, I'll have my recovery smoothie drink, that's from Tailwind as well. Each to their own, of course, but you do need to really nail down what you're going to do to recover and have those things in place, so when you stumble in the door, inevitably you just want to get yourself again into kind of a focus and mindset of switch off for a moment from what I'm feeling, how can I recover as quickly as possible and make myself feel as comfortable as I can. And that counts for your long runs as well. Throughout my whole training block of both ultras, I guess for nearly more or less a year now of training, never had any issue with my long runs, always felt very comfortable coming in the door, felt really good. In comparison, so my marathon distance training runs were horrendous, and I felt absolutely awful. That's because then my recovery really dialed in, and that was a point in my life I was really suffering badly from being able to come back in from a run and feel like I wanted to go back out again. Like I said, it does put a little bit of a dampener on things, so recovery is key. The ultra is different. Pacing is different. Of course, I'm not one of the top guys, so I'm not focusing on keeping necessarily a consistent pace in terms of the fastest pace I can possibly hold. I focus more on a comfortable pace that would see me through the distance. So if you take the most recent ultra with Ben, we both decided ahead of time that between 6 minutes and 6:30 per kilometre is where we were going to try and keep ourselves, especially for the first half. I didn't take into account the elevation, obviously that would move the average slightly, but we wanted to feel comfortable with that pace that we were going to be setting ourselves from the beginning, and it did work really, really well. We felt really good at that pace. It wasn't always possible to keep it that way, like I say, because of the elevation or because of the way that we were feeling, but that was what we set from the start so that we knew what we were going to be focusing on. And that's something that I tried to in my first ultra and failed miserably. If you follow me on Strava and you took into account some of the stats that I was putting up, you may have seen that actually from the beginning of that ultra, I was at like 7 minutes per kilometre or slower. And that wasn't because of the terrain, that was because I was just having a particularly poor day, and it really was a bad day at the office for me. And I'd run that route before. I knew what I was capable of doing. I knew that I was actually holding 5:30s throughout the first half of my ultra when I did it in training runs, but on the day it was just far from that. So pacing, I think, is key. And of course, if you've got a cut-off time, you've got to think about how you need to control your pace throughout the day in order to make the cut-off time, because you wouldn't want to get near to the end and then find yourself missing out because they've called the time on it. So each race will be different, but I think pacing is key, and you have to just practice running easy, relaxed pace if you're an amateur runner and if you don't intend to win the thing, which I'm guessing a lot of my subscribers are going to fall into that category, rather than being professional runners who are sponsored and endorsed by companies who are expecting them to deliver a result. Of course, if you're one of those people, say hello in the comments below. Everybody is an athlete, and that's why I said from the start, if you can believe in yourself enough to sign up for it, you can do it. And it's definitely not something that you feel like you need to be at a certain level to take part. It's simply not that. All walks of life take part, all experience levels take part. And I would just say sign up and enjoy that day out. Knowing the route, I think, is important, especially if it's local to you. I would always ideally go for an ultra that's nearer to you as a first one, just because you can explore the route ahead of time. It gives you an added level of confidence in what's coming up. The route I did with Ben the other day, I hadn't experienced 2/3 of that, but I knew the locality and I knew roughly what it would look like, and we had a look at the elevation map beforehand, so already I was starting to kind of process how I might approach the day, how I might approach the run. But ultimately, knowing the route would mean that now, let's say if I did the same route again, I've got a far better handle on when I can really go for it, and times when I need to rein it back in preparation for some walking. Equally, we'd also look to make sure we walked up the correct side of the hill, because where we walked up was mean and nasty and was the wrong side. But hey ho, you live and learn. In terms of mileage, I'll be totally honest with you, I did not do the kind of mileage I should have done in order to prepare myself fully for my first ultra. 40 miles is a beast of a distance, and I did not do the training that I was needing to do in order to prepare myself fully for that experience. So I did pay the price on the day, because when it got to about 30 miles, just before that, my legs were absolutely toast. It wasn't a case of me just feeling a little bit down or a little bit unhappy about my performance that did that. It was simply because my muscles just couldn't move any faster. In comparison, the run the other day, the 30-mile run, I didn't really do a lot of training at all up until that. Maybe my longest was about 16 miles. Might have even done that with Ben. And then we went straight into the 30. And I felt very, very, very controlled of that distance as well, which was fantastic for me. I'll do a little comparison in a second, but the other thing is, I know a lot of people out here get a little bit worried about recording stuff for YouTube. You may have a channel already, you may not. Document that day, document that experience, because in years to come you will want to look back on it, and you'll want to see yourself looking miserable, looking happy, crying, in agony, in pain, in elation. It's really, really important. Even if you just keep it private, please, please, please take something with you, document that experience, because it is invaluable and you'll forget a lot of it, and that's why capturing it in some form is really, really important. Now, if I can just compare the two ultras for a second, the way I was feeling going into this ultra the day with Ben was just on another level. I felt incredibly confident. I felt very, very balanced. I felt very calm. I felt like I was in total control. I had utter faith in my gear, my nutrition, my hydration. And I think that just came out of the fact that I believed in myself a lot more, and the distance was more manageable in my mind. And whilst the experience of the ultra at 40 miles was important, I think if you like, the failure of certain things in that run allowed me to kind of regroup and think about how I wanted to approach this one, which was zero pressure, out, have a fun time, have a good day, and that hopefully came across in the video as well, because I really was smiling from the start to the finish. And whilst there were some moments that were tougher than others, I felt really comfortable. I felt really, really good about it. And my legs the next day felt excellent. A little bit of tension in the back and things like that, but otherwise I just couldn't have asked for a better run. It was absolutely incredible. So with that said and done, it's quite a long video, sorry about that. I just wanted to share my experience and say that ultras are for everybody, and I think everyone should just dip the toe in the water and have a go. Try something local first of all. I would go 50k, I wouldn't do what I did and do 60k. It's just a little bit of a stretch too far from that marathon distance if that's what you're used to. I'd go 50k, 60k, 50 mile, which is pretty standard, but I think don't bite off more you can chew and be disappointed in your performance if that's something that you're focusing on, if performance matters to you. I would start with something that's a little bit more achievable, and then you can have a really, really good day and they can build up from there, kind of stepping stones. Anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Thanks so much for sticking around, watching, supporting, and like I said, hopefully you got some value from it, and hopefully I didn't waffle on too much. But if you've got any other questions, please honestly, comments below, DM me on Instagram, I'm available, so please just talk, and hopefully I can offer some insight and reassurance to anybody doing it for the first time, but it's simply from my point of view, so please don't take everything I say as being professional judgment. It's just how I feel. Alright, see you soon.